Hello, you're watching Kini TV and I'm Prasad Michael. Today we're looking at what's in store for Pakatan-led state governments in their second term. Now that their honeymoon period is over, will things change or will it be the same? In our studio today, joining us is DAP election strategist and Serdang MP, Kian Ming, and Past Research Centre Executive Director, and can I say Selangor's newly appointed political liaison officer, Dr Dzulkefly Ahmad.
Soon to be.
Thank you for joining us. We'll get there soon.
Thank you.
Okay, first let's talk about the general election first. What was the factor behind Pakistan's victory, massive victory in Selangor and Penang compared to the 2008?
Yeah, I think it is an affirmation of the policies which both state governments have conducted very well during the 5-year term. And I think it's the voters can see, especially compared to the previous state governments, that we've improved our performance of the state government dramatically, not just in terms of delivery of services, but also in terms of channeling the money and the aid in the right way, not in the chronistic way that Barisan Nasional used to do.
Despite the real onslaught on Selangor as well, Penang particularly, and they must have spent billions perhaps, and of course the engagement of consultant, international
organized NGOs, so to speak.
But how was Pakatan able to do that without the media support the BN has?
Well, I think in Selangor and in Penang, the social media is actually very, very strong.
Okay.
And many people receive their news from alternative media, and also from just their own personal experiences on the ground, that the streets are cleaner, that people are getting the welfare aids that the government has promised, and that we are able to deliver a clean, honest and transparent government.
And of course over the notion that somehow the BN and the UMNO has been reduced to a rural political party, a kampung party, not in the derivative sense, but it's only to reflect over voters that have failed to get access to the new media that's actually being their target of support.
But compared to 2008, has there been improvements in terms of getting rural voters to vote for Pakatan?
I think that would be the agenda for particularly for Selangor, and even for
Penang
as well. Perhaps Kedah and Kelantan.
We'll probably cover that when you ask us specific questions about the state government.
And do you think state leaders have a role to play as well when voters make a decision? Like Khalid is a strong leader, and also Chief Minister Lim Guan Eng. So do you think they play a role?
Oh, definitely. I think not just because of their own leadership personalities and qualities, but also the fact that in Barisan, they failed to, in the case of Selangor, even nominate Menteri Besar designate from UMNO. And in the case of Penang, there wasn't much competition between the BN leader Ting Chang Yao versus Lim Guan Eng. So it was a hands down win for us.
I think it's besides, of course, the persons of the chief ministers and the MB, the Menteri Besar, is actually the teamwork. That provides that leadership that's not seen in the BN. So that will give a lot of comfort. The fact that we went in strong to deliver what we aim to do, and I think the trust is with chief ministers and as well the excos, the entire thing, even the state assembly people.
So do you think the election outcome would have been different if we had different MBs in place?
In the case of Selangor and Penang, there wasn't a question of different MBs, so we would just continue on that assumption. That question never arose.
Okay. So moving on, now that you're in the second term in these states, and are there like democratic reforms in place, namely like local government elections? How important is that now?
In the case of Penang, I think the Penang state government is taking the federal government to court. The Penang state government is committed to that. In Selangor, we've already had 3 new village head elections. We would see whether it would be wise to expand that. I think the state government is quite open to that.
Okay, going back to Penang, actually, Pakatan as a whole, they see like they're very supportive of free press and all that. So do you think that at one point they should lift bans on, let's say, NST or Utusan in order to seem like they're actually preaching what they say?
Well, actually, I think we are, Pakatan as a whole, we are all for free press in terms of legislation. But I think if, let's say, free press comes with one side just writing lies and outright lies and not refusing to publish apologies because they've written these lies, I think we do have a right to tell these people, look, if you're going to continue this behavior, it's going to be very difficult for us to grant you access. They can still write whatever they want, and they can ask other people who are covering the press. But in terms of our national stand, we're still very much in favor of a free press.
And also moving forward, do you see that Pakistan state governments need to work more closely with the federal government?
Pakatan.
Federal government.
Yeah, like Penang or say Selangor, in terms of like the water crisis in Selangor and all that.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a federation, and I think both ways, there is no doubt that you have got to you see, the federal constitution enshrine responsibilities, and because you have the stately, the federalists, it's also enshrined in the federal constitution. It is a question of whether there is an earnestness to get things done, and if it's in a one-upmanship kind of approach, then it's always like that. Even the water crisis is clearly an example. But I think at the end of the day, Pakatan would put people, the riot's interest supreme and supersedes anything else lah. So because of that, the water issue has been quite a disturbing and a troubling one. But I think we are now coming to seeing the solution of it, hopefully.
But compared to the last time, 2008, do you see that the cooperation is more important now? Are you pushing more for it?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt, but we have always been consistent with that. And the fact that we begin with a commitment by both sides to see the problem solved, I think that would be a good start.
Yeah, I think the question is whether the BN is actually sincere in wanting to work with the state governments or not, because we've always wanted in Selangor to resolve the water crisis in a way that's fair. And I think all of us know the main stumbling block is because one of the main shareholders and stakeholders in this deal is the chairman of Shabas and also major shareholder of Pujian, Niaga Tan Sri Rosali, who is a close associate of UMNO.
But I must register my anxiety over the attitude of some leaders.
Okay.
And in fact, the PM is no exception. And if you go on a vengeance, vindictive kind of approach, like the Chief Minister of Terengganu, and now even in Kelantan, and even so that would be very destructive. Election aside, when you got to move on and to develop, together
have a national reconciliation, a genuine.
Yeah. Do you see that happening though? Like on BN side especially, are they more?
No, when they express such a vindictive statement of trying to vilify and what's the right word?
Vilify.
Vilify and to victimize is a softer word. For those who have not elected them or supported them, I think that is a non-starter altogether. That is the wrong message to be saying and to be committing. So I think we hope that they could quickly reverse all this. That Chinese tsunami is certainly one of it. But even lately, as yesterday, this kind of vindictive vengeance kind of statement is not good for us. It's not good for the entire Malaysian politics.
Yeah, and I think the cynical part of me says that it's hard for UMNO to respond positively to have a proper national reconciliation as long as the leaders within UMNO have the UMNO General Assembly elections in mind, because they would want to try to outdo one another in terms of
they're playing to their gallery actually, and the riot is the victim.
Okay. And also moving forward, talking about corruption, Pakistan has always had a stance against it very strongly. But before the elections, I think some leaders in the party came out saying that they want resources of the state to be shared. They want places in GLCs. So how do you curb this? How do you stop this from happening?
I think if let's say we do have qualified people, there's no reason why they cannot contribute in a positive way to contribute their experiences to the GLCs. But the GLC appointments cannot just be political appointments. They have to be based on experience. And I think Dr. Sri Anwar came out very strongly in support of that kind of framework or outlook in the recent PKR assembly.
Okay. Then there are two aspects to it. One is, of course, the experience that politicians as well should be exposed to, because that's got a lot to do with accountability, with governance, and of course the other is merits. You know, you don't give it to them because it's a payback time kind of thing. You give it to them because you believe that they will have values and value creation and value adding to all those appointments.
Okay.
So it's nothing. I don't know how you connected it with the corruptions, because it is all above board, and appointment must be based on merits.
Okay. And so talking about political appointments, Selangor's political liaison officers, where do they come in? What are the roles actually?
I think from the first learning curve, we would have realized that there were, if I could use the word vacuum or shortcomings, and we have learned that well. And one of it is, of course, to interface between party and the state government, and particularly the MB and the EXCO perhaps. So you have that kind of arrangement in the UK as well. So it's not something not strange. It's not something of our own creation. But even if it's our own creation, as a matter of needs, when you go to analyze and you do a needs analysis, and you realize that, hey, look, there's a vacuum here. There's a kind of there's a need here. So you actually get that in place, because there is a need to improve further over delivery, over control, over monitoring, over I think this is positive. We got to look at it positive, because I think there will be a lot of ways to add on, and this would certainly provide a and of course, one thing about Selangor state government, it is truly a Pakatan's government. Quite opposed to Penang, which is they pick and run on their own, and even Kelantan. But in Selangor, it is truly a Pakatan. 15, 14, 15. Therefore, to have a political liaison officer from all three parties is certainly in order, and there's a need for to put that in place.
Yeah, and I think the three individuals, that DAP and PAS have proposed, Dr. Zul and Teresa Kok from DAP, and also Saifuddin, who is now already been appointed. They bring together a wealth of experience on the policy level, at the state and at the parliamentary level as well, from different parts of Malaysia, as well as in Selangor. And now at least two of them, Dr. Zul as well as Saifuddin, they don't have to focus so much on constituency affairs. They can bring their experience to the state government on the policy front. So I think that's a very strong point in favour of this setup.
Also, when Saifuddin Nasution was appointed, it would aid rural development. So is the state taking a special interest in that particular area?
Of course. I think you have said it well, in the sense of how we have, in a way, failed in Selangor particularly, and for that matter PAS, and for that matter Pakatan. We somehow did not have a strong approach in getting the Malay rural constituencies, and I think with this setup, particularly over what I call as the Malay corridors of Tanjung Karang, Sungai Besar, Sabak Bernam, Kuala Selangor, Ulu Selangor, we've got to have particular attention there, and I think that certainly is in order, and hopefully we could pay and give more attention there.